Hi Anushree, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, and congrats for your ISB admit. Of course, it's come at a time when you may not be in the best position to join on campus, and I understand you've got it deferred. So, but at least a good admit to have in hand, and probably things improving next year, you'll be able to join soon.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, and thanks for all your help with the application. It was really helpful.
Completely our pleasure. So, and interestingly, you would be among the youngest candidate to have got an admit to ISB. So why don't you tell us more about your profile and your motivation to apply to an MBA in the first place, given that the class average at ISB is over 4 years, whereas you just had about two.
Sure. So I work as a financial analyst at this financial services firm called TresVista. Now I'm a senior analyst there, but I've been working there for around 2 years, nearly 2+ years. And I work with private equity clients from across the globe. We serve them in whatever kind of services they need, be it modeling or valuation analysis or any kind of market research they want to do. So, given the exposure I kind of had with working with different clients from different countries, different parts of the globe, I think I was lucky in having some kind of clarity about what I want to do in future. And I think the main motivation to apply already at ISB, given that I have lesser years of experience, was I think to pivot my efforts and fast track myself towards my goal. That was the major motivation to apply. So yeah.
Interesting. And so you
Yeah.
mentioned that you had 2 years of experience and core finance experience. So that gave you some clarity. And it's interesting because you also had about 700 on the GMAT. So 2 years of experience, 700, not a typical profile that gets into ISB.
Right.
And you must have done a great job at your application. And a lot of candidates, when they apply with these deviations on very high or very low experience, they find it challenging to understand what to present because they don't have a much to tell or a lot of experience or a lot of stories to tell.
Right.
So what was your approach to the application and the primary areas that you focused on?
Sure. Honestly, when I gave my GMAT, if I haven't told you already, I applied as a for the YLP applications back in 2017, and that time my score wasn't up to 700 also.
Right.
This time also I'm a little skeptical about applying, because I have only 2 years of experience, 700 GMAT score, both below average. But then I was determined that I want to apply, and then I'll see what happens. My major focus was, to focus on areas on my technical skills, the kind of experience I've had, the kind of exposure I've had, to talk about all this in my application because. Uh, of, so I've heard finance female candidates in ISB are preferred. So I thought I'll highlight that and maybe take a chance. I think that was my main go-to strategy with my application.
Interesting. And obviously, through the essays, you would have presented good stories and good achievements, through the 2 years that you were able to work with TresVista.
Right.
So I remember you had approached us, of course, with this concern that you had less experience and a GMAT that was not super high. And when you worked with us, you were assigned a mentor who was an ex-admissions officer and a consultant with a finance background.
Right.
So how did that help? And overall, working with ISBmantra, how did your thought process get refined? How did you benefit from the entire support?
So obviously, as you mentioned, I came in a little underconfident when I came in for my applications, and it was just about a month to the deadline. Uh, I was a little haywire in what I want to present in my application before I approached ISB Mantra, but as the mentor I was assigned and speaking with the consultants, I realized I could do a better job at in the lines and what I'm thinking about presenting in my application. I think one great advice I got from the consultant was, don't be conservative, don't undersell yourself. You're really underselling yourself because you're already underconfident. I realized, yeah, I mean, everyone else like really hypes up about what they do, and of course, talking to them, I realized I have done some good work. I'm just not really appreciating it and underselling myself on that point. So talking to them also like gave me a lot of confidence, a perspective about what kind of things I need to put in my essay, in my application, about the kind of experiences I need to highlight, and the way to put it forward to, to make it look like, or for the person reading it to realize that it really made an impact, which it did, which I wasn't thinking in my head at that point of time. Yeah, so I think majorly working with ISBmantra gave me a confidence and structure about how to go about my essays, about the kind of work I've done, how to highlight that. Yeah.
Right. No, that's a very good point that you mentioned, that a lot of candidates, when they come with anything that is not up to the mark, whether it's their work-ex or GMAT, so you tend to get defensive. You try to present things in your application which will compensate what you don't have. Whereas what you're saying is, instead of getting into that mindset, look at what you have and focus on your strengths and focus on
Right.
presenting. I mean, be more aggressive than defensive in your application, to put it in other words.
Yeah, it like totally works.
Interesting. And with your low experience, it will be interesting to learn how was your interview experience, because when you have 5-6 years of experience, that 30-minute conversation, you have a lot of things to say.
Right.
But then, how was your interview with ISB, and what kind of things, what kind of questions did the interview panel focus on?
Sure. So, most of the B school interviews in India, I think I've heard they're all very stressful and they take stress interviews. ISB interview with ISB was more like a conversation. It was very fluid. It just flowed, and I didn't even realize that it's an interview. Majority of the conversation revolved around my work profile, about the kind of projects I did, and you know. When I did mock interviews with ISBmantra, one thing that really helped me with the interviews was how to be able to steer the interview in my favor, how to take control of a conversation, which I could, and really highlight my experience and the kind of projects I worked on. So majority of the questions revolved around the projects I've done. Some little bit of technical questions. I was also asked a few basic industry case questions, which again was really like a conversation back and forth about what they were saying, what I was saying, and a little bit about my future goals, about how I'm going to align them with what I'm doing now, and why that. That's it.
Interesting. So what you're saying, it was pretty conversational, focused around what you have done, what you want to do, and kind of relating to what you might have written or presented through your application.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Nothing other than what was in my application or what I said.
Right. And of course, the conversations you have had in the process of preparing for the interview. I remember you got to work with or interview with different people in the team, in the ISBmantra team, an alum, a consultant, an ex-admissions officer. So that does give you good breadth in terms of testing your own answers and understanding how you could be tested out there. But are you able to kind of identify probably one approach or thought that you thought that, okay, going through these sessions, before these sessions I was thinking something, and now my approach has changed, and probably I need to look at it in this way?
Yeah, sure. I just mentioned this to you. I think before when with my first mock interview at ISB Mantra, uh, I let the consultant drive the conversation, and it went out of my hand to questions I couldn't answer. And then in the feedback session, he told me that, listen, you have to take control of the conversation, and he showed me ways about how I could do it with my answers, how I could lead the panel to ask me questions which I want them to ask. So this one thing really, I think, really helped me crack the interview. and to direct the conversation to, to a fruitful ending, which got me the admit.
Interesting. And so yes, and it's interesting that you mentioned that, because you always read about how you need to, or you need to learn how to drive the interview, which is not an easy task, and interviewers are experienced as well. So you are not really driving the interview, but often all you're doing is being aware of what do you want to talk about, because
Right.
it's a conversation, like you said. They are happy to hear, or talk about things that you bring to the table, and unless you are aware what is it that you really want to present, you just lose control of the conversation.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. And you have been lucky. You have been among, I mean, we have a lot of candidates who have ISB alumni in their current organizations when they work, when they apply to ISB, whether they are applying from companies like ZS or Flipkart. These companies have a lot of ISB alumni out there. And you were lucky to have worked or have an ISB alum in your team. And you did mention that you benefited from these conversations. So what would you say to future applicants in terms of how they should reach out to or be connected with ISB alumni before they apply, and how does one benefit from these conversations?
Sure, I think if anyone or any future applicant has an opportunity to, connect or to even have one conversation with an ISB alum, I think it's really important that you grab that opportunity and, make use of it, because in these conversations, at least I realized what ISB life is like, what ISB experience is like, what an ISB alum will bring to a table. And honestly, this is one of the reasons that, motivated me to apply in at ISB. And I think ISB was the only school I applied to this year. I didn't apply to any other school because I majority of the confidence in ISB came in because I spoke a lot to. I
Right.
have like 2-3 alums in the firm that I'm working in, and I took the opportunity to speak with all of them about their experience and about their time there, which really benefited me. So I think if anyone has the opportunity, they should go ahead and take it.
Right. So what I hear is, one, you gained the confidence that you can make it to ISB, which is a very good thing, a very important thing to begin with,
Right.
because no matter what your profile, you always have that doubt. Am I good enough to apply, or should I apply this year or next year or whatever? But to be able to come with that confidence that I think I can make it, and I think I have a good profile, is the first thing you, or first way you benefited from these conversations. And then what you also mentioned is the comfort that you developed with the ISB curriculum and life at ISB and related things, which again gives you the confidence when you walk into that interview room, knowing that, hey, I'm very comfortable with the school and what I'm getting into. So anything about, of course, about my profile, I have done things, but then about the school itself, I have talked to alumni, and I know what I'm getting into, and I'm happy to be able to communicate that through my conversations.
Yes.
Right. Great. And now that you have your admission deferred to the next year, so you have some time to join. It is interesting. I mean, there are a lot of people who have had to defer this year, but it is important that you use this time well. And I've talked to different people who have deferred, and some of them are looking to take up a few courses online. Some of them are continuing with their current job. So what are your plans for the next few months, especially that you have less experience, so you might be thinking of preparing yourself better once you start your program. So how do you plan to use the time ahead?
Right. So first, what I've joined back where I was working. So currently, I'm working from home with TresVista itself. Other than that, I'm really focusing on developing my curricular activities because I wasn't in at home for the longest time, and now I have time. So I've taken back on some tour on playing tennis, doing those things, and I'm also developing a reading habit, reading about finance and all that. Yeah, that's majorly what I'm planning to do and what I'm doing in this period.
Interesting. Yeah. And of course, with an additional year of experience, What I would add is you will become an interesting candidate for recruiters once you graduate from ISB, because you would have spent 3 good years working in finance and all that you would do to further upgrade yourself through the courses and reading that you do.
Right.
Great. So this was very insightful. I'm sure people watching this video will benefit, especially if they have less experience on how to approach this entire process. And I hope you are able to make good use of the time that you have ahead. So thank you so much for taking out time, and wish you all the best for all that you're doing, and of course your career after ISB.